there, I'm Christina Johnson, transformational nutrition coach and owner of Christina Johnson Wellness, which is a private health coaching practice. And I want to talk to you today about reading nutrition labels, all those labels that come on the food products we buy at the grocery store. And I will say that even if you already read food labels and you think you're pretty good at it because you've been doing it for a while, I would highly encourage you to make sure you're listening to this video, because I have found that there's some really common mistakes that people are making when they're reading food labels. And as a result, they're buying foods that they think are pretty healthy, but they really aren't all that great. And so, this whole topic of reading labels is one of the very first things that I talk about when I'm working with a new coaching client. We spend time during our first session really looking at how do you read food labels well? And one of the first action steps people will often take during that first week in our work together is to just start reading all the labels on things in their kitchen before they're buying things, and they are reading it in the way that I'm encouraging them. And what they find when they come back the next week and we're talking in their next coaching session, so many people come back and are surprised by what they've discovered when they start looking at nutrition labels just a little bit differently. And so I thought it'd be helpful for you if I share some of these tips with you. So what I'm gonna actually do is talk about 4 of the common mistakes that people tend to make initially. So when I'm first talking with someone, they're often making one of these 4 mistakes, or maybe all 4. And then I'll share with you 6 different tips to follow when you're looking at a nutrition label so that you make sure you're actually buying foods that are the healthiest option possible. So before I start though, I'm curious, when you go to look at a nutrition label, what's the first thing that you look at? So just tell me in the comments, and there's no shame here. So maybe you are making one of these 4 common mistakes, and that's okay because a lot of people are. But I would just love to know, what is one of the very first things that you're looking at when you read a nutrition label? So put that in the comments. And then also, if you think this information would be helpful for a friend or a family member, we just hit the share button or tag that family or friend so that they can get this information as well. All right, so let's look at these 4 mistakes that people make. Number 1, the biggest mistake I would say by far that I see people make is that they're focused on the numbers. And so what I mean by that is they're looking at how many calories is in the food, how many grams of fat, how much sodium, the sugar, all of those numbers on the nutrition label. And I will say, first of all, that I totally did this. This is what I used to do. I remember, and I'm a numbers person, so I can vividly remember back when I was doing Weight Watchers or just, eating low calorie or low fat. You could name almost any food and I could tell you exactly how many calories and how many grams of fat and how many Weight Watcher points that food was. But here's the problem. I had this just inaccurate view of what was actually healthy because of that. So I can remember thinking that going to get a bag of licorice and eating that was doing pretty well because it had 0 grams of fat in it. Or I also remember those Snackwell's cookies. Who here remembers the Snackwell cookies? Those too, I thought I was doing good. I could eat half a box of Snackwell cookies because they were low fat or fat free. So when we look at only the numbers on the nutrition label, the calories, the fat, and so on, we are missing the whole point. We tend to eat just because it's low fat or low calorie, but that doesn't mean that it's healthy. So that's the first mistake that I see people make. The second one is falling into one of a variety of marketing traps. And I'm sure that this has happened to you. It's happened to me. But you see something sitting on the shelf at the store and it says it's organic or it's natural or it's gluten-free. And then we think, it must be healthy, right? Have you ever done that? I'd be curious to hear what's something that appears healthy marketing wise, but then as you look at it closer, you're like, not so much. Put something in the comments if you can think of something. But, I was working with a woman years ago who had migraines on a regular basis. And her doctor had recommended that she try eating gluten-free, thinking that that could be helpful, which, is a great idea. but she didn't really know what it meant to eat gluten-free in a healthy way. So she went to the store, she wandered the aisles and found what she could that said gluten-free on the box. And what she ended up doing was eating Chex, I think it was corn Chex or rice Chex, morning, noon, and night because it was gluten-free. And you know what? It really didn't help with her migraines that much. It wasn't until we actually looked at how do you eat gluten-free in a healthy way that it started to improve. So be very careful when you're looking at a product. Just because it looks like it's natural or organic or healthy doesn't mean that it is. So that's the second trap. The third mistake people make is not paying attention to how much sugar has been added to that food. So I don't have the research on this, but I would love to. It seems like 70 or 80% of the products in the grocery store have some form of sugar added to them. And, I think about the Cliff Bars. So you've probably seen Cliff Bars before, and they seem like they'd be pretty healthy, right? Like a healthy protein bar. And, when you look at the box, there's that guy climbing a mountain. So you think, oh, it's for athletes and for healthy, active people. And then you look on the back, and if you look at the list of ingredients, so many of the ingredients are organic. It's organic this and organic that. And so it makes you think, oh, I think this must be a pretty healthy product. But if you look at the list of ingredients, I just looked at one random flavor of Cliff Bars, but it had organic brown rice syrup, organic cane syrup, and cane sugar. 3 forms of sugar listed in that list of ingredients. So it's really amazing all the different foods that sugar can be snuck into, from healthier protein bar options to ketchup, to salad dressings, to mayonnaise, to chips. There is sugar in everything, and so it's really important to at least be aware of whether or not sugar has been added to the food you're buying. Okay, the fourth and final mistake is ignoring the list of ingredients. So it's really common, like I said with mistake number 1, just to focus on the numbers, to focus on the calories and the grams of fat, and to ignore the ingredients that are going into the product. The ingredients are the most important part because that tells you if there's sugar, are there food dyes, are there artificial sweeteners, are there other chemicals and toxins being added to this food. Those ingredients are the things that are going to cause you not to feel good. Those are the ingredients that will cause you to feel tired and have joint pain and inflammation in your body. So it is really important to make sure you know what are the ingredients that is going into this food that you're purchasing. So those are the 4 common mistakes that I see people making when I first start working with them. So just a quick recap, it's focusing on the numbers, the calorie and fat grams. Number 2 is just falling into the marketing trap of something looks healthy because it's organic or natural or gluten-free. Number 3 is not paying attention to whether or not sugar has been added to the product. And then number 4 is ignoring the list of ingredients. So, like I said, I used to make, I think, all 4 of those mistakes, and I know it's really common. So let me know in the comments, are there any of those mistakes that you're making right now? Number 1, 2, 3, or 4, just put the number in the comments for me. Whether you're watching live or on a replay, I'd love to know. So let's take a look at how do you actually read a nutrition label and what do you look for so that you know whether or not you're buying healthy foods, because it's really confusing and can be overwhelming otherwise. So my first tip for you is to read the label on everything. And I mean everything. People are so surprised when they start reading labels on like the things that sugar has been added to or just how much junk is in certain foods. I was working with somebody not too long ago who, when he started reading labels, he decided to start looking at the liquid multivitamin he was taking that was recommended to him by a health professional, I believe. And he realized that there was 10 grams of sugar added to that multivitamin, something he was taking, thinking that it was healthy for him. And here he was getting an extra 10 grams of sugar every day. So that's the first step, is just look at the label on everything, even things like a multivitamin. Number 2 is to buy more food that doesn't even need a nutrition label put onto it. So I'm talking about things like, produce. Vegetables, broccoli, an apple, any kind of produce, or even meat like a steak, those things don't need a nutrition label put on it. And if they do have a label, it's one ingredient, beef or broccoli. So your goal is to fill up your cart with as many foods as possible that do not need a nutrition label. That will be just a huge step forward in how you feel and your ability to lose weight. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3 is when you do buy foods that have a nutrition label on them, focus on the list of ingredients. In all honesty, I do not even glance at how many calories is in a food, how many grams of fat, how many grams of added sugar. I don't look at that anymore. The only thing I'm concerned about is that list of ingredients. So that is what you want to focus on when you're reading labels. Okay, tip number 4 is that when you're buying processed food, look at that list of ingredients and this isn't a hard and fast rule, but a general rule of thumb is to try to buy food that has 5 ingredients or less. Because what tends to happen is that the longer the list of ingredients, the more likely there's artificial ingredients and chemicals and preservatives and all kinds of other things that we don't really want in our food. So the shorter the list of ingredients, 9 times out of 10, the healthier that food will be for you. Tip number 5 is to look at each of the foods in that ingredient list and just ask yourself, do I know what this is? If you don't know what it is, sure, maybe it's just something unfamiliar, but you want to make sure that most of the ingredients in that ingredient list is something that you recognize. So for example, one processed food that I do buy occasionally is guacamole. So I've looked at the label for Holy Guacamole, that brand, and if you look at the ingredient list, I think there's maybe 5 or so ingredients, and it's avocado, I think water, vinegar, dehydrated garlic, onion, and maybe salt. I mean, it's just a really short list. I know every single ingredient. I know what that is. And if I wanted to go buy those ingredients, I could make this product myself. Compared to a bag of Doritos where the list is this long, it's all these chemical sounding names. There's no way that I could go buy those ingredients and recreate a bag of Doritos. So that's just kind of a way to think about it in your mind, whether or not something is healthy, is by looking at that list of ingredients and just seeing if you recognize what's in it. Okay, my 6th tip for you then, and this is a really important one, is to look for all added sources of sugar. So really examine that list of ingredients and ask yourself, is there sugar added to this product? Probably 7 or 8 times out of 10, you'll have to say, yep, there's sugar added into this. So the trick here though is that it's not always going to say sugar. There could be, I think there's like 40, 50 different names for sugar on a label. So it could be written as sugar, or it might be listed as honey or maple syrup or cane syrup or fructose or fruit concentrate, dextrose. There are so many different names for what sugar could be or different forms of it. So you really want to get familiar with what all the different forms of sugar are. And I do have a list of, 40 different names for sugar. So if that's something you're interested in, just send me a message with your email address and I can send that list of some of the different names of sugar to you. But it's really important to look at everything you're buying and just being aware, has sugar been added to this? And then the other thing to look at is that oftentimes, like the Cliff Bars I was talking about earlier, it's not only that sugar has been added, but it's added multiple times. So in the Cliff Bars, it was, brown rice syrup, cane syrup, and cane sugar. So 3 different forms of sugar. So, that again is just a bigger sign that you really want to be, wary about having that much extra sugar. So here's my challenge to you. I would challenge you for the next week to read the label on everything that you buy, following the 6 tips that I just shared with you. So read the label, focus on the ingredients, see if you recognize the names of the ingredients, make sure it's a short list, look for added sugars, and just really be aware of what's going into the food that you're buying. I promise you, this, like I said, this is one of the first action steps my clients will take when we're working together. And they come back and they're always shocked by what they've discovered, and the things that sugar is in, or just the things that they thought were healthy but really aren't the best option. And this is really the first step to eating in a way that will not only help you lose weight, but helps you feel healthier overall. Because when you're avoiding those ingredients that are just chemicals and toxins and sugar and inflammatory foods, then when you remove those and start choosing the healthier options, it's amazing how much better your digestive system will feel. Aches and pains go away. You have more energy. It just starts to make everything work a little bit better. So take this week, just become more aware of what's on your labels, and just try to start making some healthier choices based on that. And if this feels overwhelming to you, because I know for some people it's a totally different way of thinking about buying food. It's just a different way of eating when you're focused more on clean eating and eating less processed foods and more foods without the nutrition labels. It can feel overwhelming, or like you're just not sure where to start. So if that is you, where you're just not sure where to start, or you just want somebody to tell you, okay, this is what we need to do step by step, then I would encourage you to reach out to me, because that's what I do with people in my Total Body Reset program. We look at what does it take to create a clean eating lifestyle. But not only that, because what you eat is important, but that's just the first step. After you're eating healthy, then you have to figure out, how do you have a healthy relationship with food so that when you're stressed or tired or bored or feel like you've had a rough day, that you don't just automatically go back to eating the junk food. So we have to really figure out and get to the root of the issue, so that when you are having a rough day, you know what to do about it without food. And then also, really feeling healthy is about having an overall healthy lifestyle. So getting good quality sleep and managing your stress and being active. And so in my Total Body Reset program, we start with the food. We start with these basics, and then we build from there on creating this healthy lifestyle that just becomes your everyday normal, that makes you feel so good that you're bouncing out of bed in the morning, as one woman told me just earlier this week, and you can reach a healthy weight for your body so you feel confident and happy. So if you are interested in more information about that, I'd be happy to schedule a free consultation with you, where we can just figure out what's going on for you and if this program is a good fit for you or not. Just send me a message or comment below, and we'll get one of those discovery sessions set up. And until then, I just am so excited to hear what insights you get throughout the next week as you start reading food labels more carefully. If you're watching this on Facebook, make sure you hit like my Facebook page so that you see future videos that I do. And if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel so that you get notified when I have a new video go live. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. Bye for now.